This is a recording of Lab 9-1, Activity 1. Making this recording, this was an in-class lab. I'm making this recording so the people or the students who are absent on the 22nd can get credit or do the lab and turn the lab in. Activity 1 in 9-1 says a fan is to turn on when counter C5:0 counts down from 7 to 0, and either counter C5:1 goes from 14, or 2 counter 5-2 counts down from 14 to 0. One switch resets the entire process. I'm going to scan this copy of the lab, and I'm going to put it on Blackboard. I'm going to put it in the lab section link, and then so you can download it and print it off, and then you can turn it in. You can do it from this recording, and then turn it in with the rest of the class. First thing we're going to have to do is we're going to have to insert a few rungs. 2 or 3. We can always get rid of them, but it's a little easier just to go ahead and put them in and just delete them. Then what we're going to do, it says we need 3 counters. The first counter is going to be a down counter, and then the second counter is going to be an up counter, and then the third counter is going to be another down counter. Because the lab says that C5:0, which is this guy right here, C5:0, it says this is going to count down from 7 to 0. Well, what we have to understand is all the counters count from 0. So what we're going to have to do on our preset value is we're going to have to put a -7 instead of a +7. So we're counting down, but all the RS Logic counters start from 0. Okay. So what we're going to do is we'll go in here, unless we preset the accumulator. So by default, the counter, all the counters, if we don't somehow load the accumulator with a different number, all our counters start counting from 0. So if I'm going to count down and I'm going to use the default, then I have to use a -7. The next counter says it's going to count, which is C5:1, is going to count up. It's going to count up to 14. So we'll preset this counter. This is going to be C5:1. We're going to preset it with 14. Okay. The next thing we're going to do is it says that C5:2 is going to count down from 14. So C5:2 is a down counter. C5:2 is a down counter. So we're going to preset it to a -14. And I did this wrong. This is supposed to be this is supposed to be 14. So here's our 3 counters. We got our first down counter is counting from -7. Our next up counter is counting to 14. And then our next down counter is going from -14. Now, of course, we'll talk about this or look at it in a minute. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to set up some switches. Okay, so let's go back to user, and we'll use some normally open switches. I'm doing this with Logic Pro, of course, because I'm doing it at home. So we have 3 switches. Okay, so here, and if we remember Logic Pro, its simulator, its first input port, and we'll change all these to normally open buttons. we're not required a master start stop, so we'll just start from right here. So our first input module is module 1. So we'll have to assign this input colon 1 colon 0. We'll assign this to input 1 colon 1, and we'll assign this to input colon 1/2. Then it says we're going to have to reset the whole process. So this will be our working rail right here. So we don't need this rail right here. So I'll go ahead and delete it. It says we're going to have one button, one switch is going to reset all the counters. So down here we'll go ahead and put one switch, and I'm going to assign it to input 1/15. So I'm going to assign it to this guy right here so I can keep it in there. And we'll call this guy here, we'll call this the reset. We'll call this the reset button. This one we'll call it for counter 1. Let's come up there and call it C1. And for counter 2, we'll just call this C2. And for counter 3, we'll call this C3. Okay. And then we're going to turn on the fan with this guy right here. So we'll come down here, and we'll assign this to one of our outputs. We'll assign it to this output here. So we'll assign this to output to colon 0. And it says we're going to turn on the fan. So this symbol right here, we'll just call it fan. Okay. Okay, so we have this button here. It's going to be this guy. It's going to cause this thing count from 7 to 0 because we're counting down. So remember, we're going to have to preload this. We're going to have to preload this with a -7. So it's going to count from -7 down to -8. Or I think we'll look at it. This is going to be an up counter from 0 to 14, and this is going to be a down counter from 0 to -14. Now we're going to come down here and do our logic. It says the fan will turn on when C50 gets to its negative number. So what we're going to do is this guy right here, since it's a down counter, remember it's already the count value or the accumulator is already greater than this right here. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to change this to an examine if open, and then we're going to use the C5 colon 0 / we're going to use the done. Okay. Then it says and either this goes up or this goes up to 14, right? So what we'll have to do is we'll come in here and we're going to put a down drop right here. So it says either counter C5-1. So we'll come up here and C5 colon 1. And oops, sorry, that's not rich. So C5 colon 1, C5 colon 1 / done. Now this is an up counter, so we don't have to look for the opposite. And it says this guy, excuse me. Okay, so here we're going to use this guy, and we're going to call it C5 colon 2 / done. Now remember, and this is where things start looking kind of strange, is that, oops, that's a symbol written. Sorry. C5 2 / done. So I get it done. So this is what it says. It says the fan turns on when counter C50 counts down from 7 to 0. But remember, this is what's kind of strange, because if it's a down counter, then a down counter has to start from a negative number. Okay, so it's going to, 0 is greater than 7, so it's going to say it's done to start off with. So this is why we started off with a normally closed contact, right? And it says and. Okay. Then it says and when either counter 5-1, this is 5-1, now it's a down counter. So when it hits 0, it'll be okay. And then it says counts up to 14 and C5 2. So this should be this guy right here. Because it's a down counter, and we have to load it with a negative number. Counts down from 14 to 0. So understand, this guy is a down counter, so it's going to start counting from 0, and so it's going to count down. So 0 is greater than 14, so it's going to say it's done all the time. Here it's going to say 0 is greater than a -7, so it's going to say it's done. So but when it counts down and goes past 0, this is when it should work. So we'll see. So this looks like it's going to work. So let's come up here and go ahead and download it. Okay. And then we'll go online. And then we'll switch to run. Okay. So according to this, we can come up here and we can count down. All right. So notice this is true. So this is false. We go down to a -7. And then this comes true, which is what we want. Then it says and when either C5. Okay, we forgot something. Okay, so let's go ahead and pause. We'll go ahead and go offline. Okay, I forgot my resets. So we're going to have to reset all 3 counters. So I'm going to come up here and pull 1 reset in. Okay. And then I'm going to go ahead and put another reset, another reset. Okay. Now, of course, I know we can't put these in series like this, but I'm going to go ahead and pull them down, and then I'll put them in parallel. So I'm going to put a down drop. Okay. And I'm going to slide this guy here into it. Okay. And then we'll slide this guy right here into it. Okay. And then we'll come up here and we'll put another down drop. Okay. And we'll put it right here. And then I'll slide this guy into it. Okay. And then I'll come in and slide our last one into it. Put it right here. Okay. This guy, we want it to reset C5:0. This guy right here, we want it to reset C5:1. This guy, we want it to reset C5:2. And I don't know where these symbols came from. So when I push this button right here, it should reset all the counters. We'll go ahead and take care of that, and we'll go ahead and download it. Then I'm going to go online. Then I'm going to go ahead and switch it to run. And we've already got this one, so let's check our reset, because this resets all counters. Now we'll see how it works. So I'm going to go up here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7, and then this goes true. I mean, this goes false, so this goes true, so that's what the examine if closed means. Then we got our OR situation, sort of an OR. I'm going to come up here and check this OR out, so I'll come up here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is supposed to do it when it checks to 14. And we're watching this counter right here. I'm almost there. Okay, now it's done. So the fan is running. So to see our other situation, we'll have to go ahead, because this one right here won't make any difference right now, so I'm going to go ahead and reset it. Then we'll go ahead and do our first counter again. Okay, so it's true. And then we're going to check this one out. So this will be this switch right here. And notice it's already done because 0 is greater than 14. Okay, so what we're trying to do is make this greater than that. So we'll come up here and start counting this counter. And we're watching the accumulator value here. And there we go. And now the fan's running. So we said this counter right here had to count down from 0 from 7 to 0. We had to fool it a little bit. It says and this or this. So it looks like this approved both of those are true. This is our circuit. You can just come up and pause the lecture while you draw the circuit out. But remember, you also have to draw the relay logic also. You're going to have to assign the input ports. So we're using input 1 / 0, input 1 / 1, input 1 / 2. These are our PLC output ports for each input devices. The only output port that we're using that requires an address is our fan, and it's connected to output 2 / 0. So this concludes lab 9-2, activity 1. I'm going to put this on Blackboard inside the folder, inside the lab folder, along with lab 8-1. Now 8-1 is previously recorded. It's in the recorded lecture section. This will also be in the recorded lecture section. I will go ahead and upload the blank copy of lab 8-1 because a couple of y'all were absent on the day that 8-1 was due. So this concludes lab 9-1, activity 1.